Welcome, everyone, to the 8th annual Programmers Week Conference brought to you by Cognizant Softvision. My name is Jason Marconi, and I'll be your host today. We've been taking this time for the past 8 years to celebrate all programmers. Do you know why? Well, let's nerd out a little bit and find out why we're celebrating Programmers Week, when we turned it into even a month, and back to the original for Programmers Day. So, here it is. Programmers Day was September 13th this year, and it marks the 256th day each year. The key here is the number 256. So let's learn a little bit of a fun fact here. This number is important in the binary space, which is the mathematical foundations that computer science is built on. I feel so smart saying that out loud. Computer values are stored in bits, and 8 bits form a byte. You're following me here. With all its binary combinations, a single byte can store amounts from 0 to 255. Which results in 256 unique values, and now you're smarter. Tell all your friends on social media how smart you are. But that 256, an incredible number for programmers and very important. So that's one fun fact. Here's another fun fact. Almonds are a member of the peach family. I didn't know that. I wanted to share. All right, so hopefully you see the theme today. That's as edgy as I'm gonna get. 1, we're here to have some fun. 2, we're here to learn. So for today, to help kick us off and talk more about the theme this year, I'd like to welcome Andy Stafford, Executive Vice President of Delivery Software and Platform Engineering. Andy, take it away.
So thanks very much, Jason, for the intro, and equally thanks for the ill-fitting t-shirt that I'm wearing to launch our Frontrunner conference, part of our Programmers Week celebration. So Programmers Week is something we've been doing for a number of years now. We're being a little bit naughty this year because we've decided to really turn it into Programmers Month. So we're running a series of events and activities right the way through the month of September. At the center of all this is our Frontrunner conference, which is taking place on the 21st of September today. So what's that all about? 2 hours of hopefully insightful, uplifting, inspirational things for you to enjoy on all things coding, development, or programming, depending on your preference. It'll be fast and furious, I can assure you. Why do we call it Frontrunner? Let's just be very clear. What do our clients demand now more and more and more? Speed and velocity. How fast can we get this to market? How fast can we get this live? How soon can you deliver value? So underpinning of all this is speed to value, which is what our clients value the most. So enjoy the conference. 2 hours of fairly intense stuff. I'm particularly looking forward to the keynote at the end from my friend Angelani, who will be hopefully bringing all of this to a uplifting and energizing close. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Let's address T-shirt gate right out of the gate. One quick announcement is I did steal Andy's T-shirt, but we're going to be sending him a proper one that reads, I was a welcome speaker at Programmers Week Conference, and all I got was this ill-fitting T-shirt, but the host sure looked dashing. That's me. Thank you, Andy, very much. We'll get you a good t-shirt next time. All right, let's keep having some fun. We are excited to bring you Tech It or Leave It. It's part debate, part game show, part crossfire, all fun. Our group of contestants give hot takes on the next big tech trends, which will survive, which will thrive. We give you Tech It or Leave It. Kendall, to you.
Hello and welcome everybody to the premiere of Tech It or Leave It, powered by Cognizant Softvision and Techonomy. In this game, we will have 4 rounds of debate and discussion on all things tech with 3 leading tech influencers. I'm Kendall from Techonomy and I'm your host, and these are your contestants. Contestant number 1, with over 2 decades working for PC Mag, he's reviewed over 1,100 smartphones, tablets, and other gadgets. Ladies and gentlemen, Sasha Segan. Contestant number 2, he's been a tech journalist for over 30 years, and he's the founder and editor-in-chief at Techonomy, David Kirkpatrick. And our third contestant, with more than 25 years of tech leadership experience, he is now the head of the Engineering Guild and a distinguished architect with Cognizant Softvision. Please welcome Dustin Kangas. All right, everybody, let's begin. This is Tech It or Leave It. So for round one, our contestants will answer some open-ended questions. Here's your question. A lot has been made about the next generation of online experiences. Web3, metaverse, AR and VR, gaming, blockchain, crypto, and beyond. Where do you see our future online experiences heading? Sasha, why don't you start us off?
Well, thanks, Kendall. You give me a real scam sandwich there with Web3 and crypto on the outside, these frothy financialized things which are basically just get-rich-quick schemes, which will not change our world in any positive way. But in the middle, there is some meat, and I think that's really around what we talk about with the metaverse, AR, VR, MR, XR, and the verification tools on the blockchain could change how we live. If not within the next 5 years, definitely within the next 10.
Very good point. David.
Well, I think many people underestimate the degree to which we have become totally habituated to smartphones, apps, and how well they really do serve our needs for now. And so many of the proponents of those trends, financialized or not, don't really credit the total sort of solidification of our current experience digitally. And I don't think it's going to change that quickly. I think many of those things have potential for the long term, but we don't need most of them now.
And Dustin.
I think we're heading to war with this whole thing. All of this technology has gone through microtransactions right now. We're heading in a macro level, and we're not going to see real change coming out until we get consolidation, verification, regulation in these marketplaces so that we can have better experiences for everybody involved. Right now, it's just at its infancy.
All excellent points. Another open-ended question. With all the advances technology affords society, there is a growing movement that suggests that it is fundamentally reshaping the human experience in ways that are not always positive. Threats to democracy, hate speech, disinformation, distraction, and addiction. These are just some of the pernicious possibilities. Where do you stand on whether technology can cause societal harm? Let's start with you, Sasha.
I think the social media transformation absolutely has caused societal harm. But what we need, unfortunately, is for the old guys like us on this panel to step aside, and for young people who really grew up with these technologies and understand them in a visceral way that less allows them to be misled by them, like I'm seeing with teenagers today who I have a lot of hope in. Once that generation starts to take the lead, I think that is going to improve things.
That's a positive spin. I hope so. And David, to you.
Well, I wrote a book about Facebook that came out more than a decade ago, so I've been cursed to follow that company closely, and I've been increasingly distressed by its impact on society with every passing year. I'm absolutely convinced that the global decline in democracy we're seeing is largely a function of the disinformation that is so readily spread on social media and government leaders and political parties abusing that. So I think technology has provably harmed society, and I don't think we really have the systems yet. Maybe AI could help in the long run to remediate that. I'm not nearly as optimistic as Sasha that we can just get better at it as educated humans.
Slightly more concerning angle. All right, Dustin.
And I'm with David on this one a lot, because when you look at the societal harm, it's not just in our society, it's our physical structures that are being changed because of social media. We all have a need to get our dopamine intake from somewhere. And so we're getting it from social media rather than getting it from other environments that have positive influence on what we're actually trying to do and trying to achieve. And so I can see the continued decline, the misinformation that's coming through. And AI, if it's not done correctly, is simply going to increase that amount of misinformation because it's going to be representative of the bias that's already going to be out there.
I mean, I don't want to be too much of an optimist here, because I do think that we could live long enough to break the world irreparably before the kids can fix it.
Yeah, well, that seems to be happening. The real thing depends on the responsibility of the small number of giant companies that control these ecosystems. And for the most part, they have not stepped up to the responsibilities that they face
Or
because they prioritize profit. It's
Or the governments who could regulate those companies don't understand how they work because those governments are run by people even older than us.
No, with the exception of China, no government in the world really understands tech, and that's a problem, serious problem.
All right, it's been an excellent first round. Sasha really standing out with his own opinions.
Hey.
David and Dustin, great points too. Welcome to round 2, What's the Word? Where our contestants will fill in the blank for a number of statements. So here is our first one. The metaverse will be blank. Sasha.
Expansive. It's going to be everywhere.
And David?
Not much at all. It will virtually be nowhere except for some gamers.
Okay. And Dustin?
Immersive. We're going to see the blending of the digital world and the real world together.
Sounds like you're a little bit of the odd one out there, David.
I guess I am, but I say la vie.
All right. In the generation ahead, blockchain technology will be used to blank. Dustin.
Everything. Blockchain will give us the way to have visibility into everything that we're doing in the digital world.
Sasha.
Verify. Blockchain technology's best use is to double check and to prove that things are what they say they are.
I like that. David.
I think blockchain will be used in a lot of industrial and commercial applications. In most of the things it's being talked about for, it's overkill. Databases already exist that can do much of the same thing.
All right. If there's one thing the world is sleeping on in the future of tech, it is blank. David.
Oh, the threat to democracy, I'd say. It's we talked about it before, but it is genuine and terrifying.
Agreed. Dustin.
I think it's really what you're sleeping on is just the general benefit that it's going to have and how we're going to clean up the mess that we're in with democracy and everything else.
There are some good sides to it, I don't deny. I'm not a total pessimist.
And Sasha, your thoughts?
India. I think there's a potential for innovation in the Indian technology industry that we haven't seen realized on a global scale, that people aren't aware of. That's going to be an amazing story, especially in the 2030s.
Hard to argue with that, actually.
Yeah, very good points. The growing threat of cybercrime and hacking is blank. Dustin.
Is real. I mean, it's business. That's what it is, and it's going to continue to be there because it is big business.
Sasha?
Consistent. I've been following hacking and cybercrime for the past 20 years, and there's been hacking and cybercrime for the past 20 years. I don't think it's necessarily ramping up massively in a way that changes the game.
And David?
It's terrifying.
Simply put, but solid. All right. By the time the kids of today grow up, social media will be blank. Dustin.
Social media will not exist in the way that we see it at all anymore. By the time the kids grow up, it's either going to be replaced because we see it as too invaluable, or their experience is going to be something completely different than how we even visualize it today.
Sasha.
It'll be over. I agree. It's a creation of the Gen X and millennial generations, and the new generations are going to have their own ways of going about things.
And David.
I don't think we're going to use the word social media for much longer. I don't know what will replace it, but it is a time-bound phenomenon that is of decreasing interest to most people on the planet, I would say.
All right, I'm very curious about what is on the horizon. Another excellent round, a feisty round with really good points. Let's move on to the next. Our third round is the name of the game, Tech It or Leave It. I will say a series of statements and each contestant will have the chance to buy or sell that statement. Low code, no code will continue to grow and soon dominate software engineering. Dustin, Tech it or leave it.
Leave it. It's not software engineering.
And David.
I'd say tech it. May not be good for Dustin, but it's probably good for the world.
And Sasha?
Leave it. I was making apps that way in 2013. I don't see that there's been a generational shift in how this is done.
Do you want to expand on your reasoning, David?
Well, I've learned a lot of what I know about it from Cognizant Softvision, I have to say, and I think it's an astonishingly promising development that allows non-engineers to contribute to software, which is controlling the world, and that's got to be positive in my view.
If it creates shadow systems and everything else within the environment, then that's great. But it's not going to be software engineering.
I think ultimately you're going to have software engineers writing the structures that people then manipulate in these object-oriented or low-code situations, which means there's going to be no reduced need for software engineers.
All right. Web3 has the ability to completely overhaul the internet as we know it. David, tech it or leave it.
Definitely leave that. I think there are elements that are super interesting in metaverse and crypto and all that, but the idea it's going to totally redefine the internet in any near term is totally something I would leave.
Sasha? Leave it. Someone needs to define Web3 before it can define the internet.
Fair. And Dustin?
Leave it. There's some interesting concepts in Web3 that still have to be worked out.
I guess there's some unanimity on that one.
Succinct. I like it. Cryptocurrency is a viable payment platform. It's just ahead of its time. David, tech it or leave it.
Definitely leave that one too. I continue to fail to see any kind of massive standard use case for crypto that solves major problems the world has.
Dustin?
Leave it. Cryptocurrency is really just digital commodities, and you can produce as much of that commodity as you want. So it's completely artificial.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Currency should be a reliable store of value backed by some entity, such as the production capacity of a country. Cryptocurrency is a wildly fluctuating speculative instrument that is a financial plaything, not an actual useful store of value.
Yeah, one thing I believe is that a large part of the enthusiasm for crypto comes from a libertarian sentiment that is fundamentally anti-government, anti-institutional, and could be seen as anti-societal. It's really almost anarchic in the impulse behind it, and that scares me.
I couldn't agree more.
And if they even get to the point of really having like solid coin and things like that that are actually backed by something, and you have government stepping in and making the regulations and creating their own currency in the digital market, it's just going to move everything out from where it is.
And I'd like to point out that those stable coins are not backed with what they say they're backed with.
Oh yeah,
Tether is going to collapse within the next 3 years.
But governments will issue digital currencies for better or for worse, as Dustin said.
At some point in time. And then whatever's there currently today, we're just going to see it being replaced in a similar manner.
Although I'm not sure really what advantage digital national currencies are going to confer in a society where our transactions are almost all digital already.
Very good points. A lot of agreement there. Clean tech has the ability to dramatically reduce carbon emissions. Tech it or leave it, David.
Oh, I would tech it, as I tried to say as often as possible. I am a big proponent of climate tech. I don't think we've got what we need, but it's wonderful to see the enthusiasm around that space and the innovation and all the entrepreneurs and investors that are flocking to solve what is really the world's most fundamental problem.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Unfortunately, there is too much. There's too much weight and too much gravity around the fossil fuel industries, especially here in the U.S. And I would say one of the best things we could do for climate would be to shut down cryptocurrency.
And Dustin.
And I'm going to say leave it. Clean tech is marketed as clean. It's just less dirty. But technology is going to be based off the energy sector. And so we need to be able to have more stable, low-cost energy environments to be able to push tech forward, which we don't have right now. And it's not going to be replaced with what clean tech is as it currently stands.
I would just say, if we can't tech clean tech, we are all screwed.
I don't disagree, but I think we may be screwed.
Jeez. That's so
So many
scary.
optimists today. Google AI achieving sentience. Take it or leave it. Dustin.
Leave it. Any AI that is sentient causes too many problems.
Succinctly put. And David.
I'd leave it. There's a lot of reason to be worried about what AI is going to be capable of, but it is by no means close to sentient yet.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Sentient, whether something's sentient or not sentient, is an academic discussion to be engaged in on university campuses among philosophers. It doesn't really actually affect anything in our day-to-day.
All right. Again, a lot of great points here. Sasha, I'm loving your opinions. Don't know if I'm allowed to favor someone so early on, but that is where we're at. We've heard a lot of great opinions today, and I've loved the back and forth. I think everyone has great reasoning, but I think we have a winner. Contestant number 1, Sasha Segan.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sasha. The floor is yours. You have 30 seconds to say where the world is going with all of this.
Tech is going to further connect people, and it's going to further enhance people's capabilities. When we talk about things like AR and VR, it's about bringing more information more easily to people, helping them process the information more easily with things like AI and quantum computing, and ultimately bringing people from far away together. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing often depends on the people. And we need intelligent, cognizant leadership to be able to move that society forward.
Excellent. Love the name drop. This was Tech It or Leave It with Techonomy and Cognizant Softvision. Thank you so much and hope to see you next year.
So 1 second is I was just texting David a smiley face and a winky face because at one point he said, "Hey, listen, I'm not a pessimist." Okay, so I said we were going to have some fun, but what I really meant is we're going to spend the first 6 minutes talking about societal collapse and the reason behind it. Hopefully, though, you did have some fun. Hey, those were some really good opinions expressed by our panelists, and now I feel like we're in it. I feel like we're in full swing. So let's keep our foot on the gas. Do you see what I did there? This is a masterclass in bridging segments. Let's keep our foot on the gas and get right into our next discussion. We are thrilled for our next speaker. Like Monaco levels, heart-racing excitement through the streets, thrilled to bring you inside the mind of a true frontrunner. I had the distinct pleasure of talking to legendary F1 driver Seb Vettel. Seb offers an incredible real and raw look into the mind of a front-running elite athlete. We'll pick up right at the first question. So let's watch and learn from the great Seb. The mentality of a front-runner. What does it mean to fail fast and how to overcome that? So my first question to you, failing fast, and then the struggle to overcome it, and then lessons learned. We're getting really deep really quick, my friend. But talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, thank you and hello. I think it's not going to be possible to answer as quick as you asked the question, but I think everybody is different. I think you need to know why you're doing what you're doing or what you want to achieve. And sort of imagine, I think you need to have an image of whatever it is that you want to achieve, how you want to feel at the end of it. So depending on what your target is, you might achieve it within a day, you might achieve it within a year, or it might take your entire life. So it's hard to be more precise. But I think in the end, it's the mentality or just your approach that really matters, and how you're able to adapt, because I think humans, we are great in adapting, and even if, adapting and learning and overcoming complications, failures, shortcomings, in order to achieve what we really, really want to achieve. And in the end, you will then know that it's about the journey and not so much about the results. But it will only, I think it will make you stronger achieving your goals, or trying to do the best you can to achieve your goals. So again, not so easy to answer.
No, Seb, that was fantastic. I have one of your quotes that's one of my favorites. Is, you can't always be the best, but you can do your best. And I think you nailed that and encapsulated that perfectly. One of the things you talked about, adaptability, the perception of being adaptable throughout your career. How has that changed as your experience has grown?
Well, I think I have grown. I think as much as I've grown older and more experienced and more mature, I think I've grown in the sense of, understanding things and overcoming, these failures or shortcomings quicker than I used to. So I think, it's important that things, if they don't go your way, that they do bug you and they do upset you. But I think it is important to also learn that, these emotions, the highs and the lows, are part of the journey. And you're not losing your target out of it. It's not becoming unclear or getting out of sight. So I think as you go older, I think I don't want to say there is a risk of overcomplicating things, but surely you learn and you understand more things. Things are how they are interconnected. And sometimes it makes things more complicated. It's then to try and, simplify them again and not get lost in the complication. But also it's a very useful lesson to understand how things are connected and, how you can use them to your advantage, these connections. So, it is in the end, it is a journey.
As we're here celebrating Programmers Week, you just said, don't get lost in the complication. And I don't think there's a better quotable that we could have come out for the first several minutes of this. So well done. One of the items that Cognizant and, many folks are looking for right now is engineering modern business. And we talk about something called intuition engineered as we go out to clients and we try to build sustainability packages for them. And we try to do good, as good humans throughout our clients and for our customers. What part of intuition, and I want to dig in a little bit to intuition, what part of intuition would you say is in your checklist of top 10, top 5, mentalities to have and little pieces of talent to have throughout your career? How does intuition play a role?
Massive. I think it plays a huge role. So talking about, what happens inside the car, which is basically my job. So talking, I guess, to everybody to, what happens behind the desk, behind the screen, whatever the job is, whatever the task is. I think you probably know what to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the position. I think it's about organizing or having everything else in check, so to say, that you are in the best possible state of delivering. So not about the quantity so much, but the quality. So obviously for me, if I look at qualifying, for example, which is just about to set the fastest time, it is literally only one lap or a couple of laps in the session that really matter. Everything else doesn't matter so much. But to put yourself in the best possible shape to then extract the maximum out of yourself in the car, you have to rely to a large extent on your intuition, on your instinct, and just sort of get in that flow and let it happen. If surely it's important to keep things in mind and understand that I need to do this and I need to remember that. But I think that the more free or the more availability, or how can I say, the more space you have in your head, the more headspace you have, the more likely I am to hit these apexes and to do well and to get a fast lap. If you're busy thinking about other things because, I don't know, there's trouble in your private life, or you didn't sleep well, you didn't prepare well, you don't eat well, you don't, all these things, then they do contribute. Sometimes you can measure, sometimes it's difficult to measure, but they do contribute to a lack of instincts or intuition taking over. And I think to be really, one with the car, one with the elements, and one with the task, you need to be free and have that space, and just let things happen. I think, your ultimate, I don't know if there is a creativity measure, then I guess the ultimate performance comes through when you are getting in that state of mind. So it plays a huge role, but I think it's a very conscious as much as that is a subconscious task, it is a very conscious task. I guess there's also the element which, in sports in particular, you mustn't underestimate, is just to be like you're very ambitious and you just want to be better than the others. You hate losing. So that's a massive drive as well. But again, how sustainable is that? Because at some point, maybe you won everything and maybe you achieved everything, and then what? So then you start to ask these, other types of questions. But that's where it's easy to overcomplicate when you get a little bit older and more experienced. But then it's the key to, break it back down to and simplify to really know what you want. But sorry, I let you carry on.
No, so the then what? Let's talk about that, because I don't think you can turn that part of your brain off, right? I think you're always going to be a front runner. The way that you've dove into things like climate change from a very academic sense and sustainability to try to learn more and more about it, that's a part of your brain that naturally comes out as a front runner. Let's talk about now that you're transitioning. To say retirement seems to age you more. Let's call it the mic drop. You're doing the mic drop at the end of the season. What type of mentality as a front runner are you going to bring out for some of those passion projects that you have, like sustainability?
Well, the fair answer is it needs to be seen. I need to obviously prove myself now. You could say I'm in a seat where, I know what to do, and it's very easy to sort of hang on to it. But I chose a different way, and it will be a new journey and a new task. I don't expect to be, the best in whatever I pick up tomorrow, and it's going to be a real test to myself. But I'm happy to take that challenge because I'm always looking forward to the next thing. So even though not knowing exactly what these next things are, I'm very much looking forward to them. And I think there will always be the approach of trying to perfect or trying to optimize, trying to prepare as much as I can, trying to understand as much as I can. But I think it needs a very humble approach because there's so many things, so many fields where I haven't got a clue, and I need to listen and learn. But I guess channeled in the right way, it will be more of a help rather than something that's in the way.
What kind of advice do you give, the generations coming up that, either want to get into racing or just want to find their passion? What kind of advice would you give?
Give the children the room and the space to, keep on doing what they love. I mean, it's really, I think we need to, the kids are our future in many, many ways. So we need to look out for them, and that means giving them as much space as they need. And, we're all different. All kids are different. But I think that's a great way to look at it. If they can, if they have the freedom to be obsessed with whatever is in front of them, they will pick up something that they will probably hold on to the rest of their lives. So we need to make them the space.
I absolutely love that. Except my 8-year-old will make the space with 2 firecrackers running through the house, but I get what you're saying. So give them enough space in that safe capacity. I appreciate the parenting advice 101, my friend. All right. All the sports pundits wrote into us and said, hey, listen, you have to ask this one final question. So here's your last question. We've recently heard some folks, Michael Schumacher getting into karting, getting back into the track. How much of a possibility is it going to be that you're able to stay off the track or racing in some capacity? I just saw that as a bicycle champion, you passed Alfonso. Maybe it's the Tour de France. I don't know what's next for you, but are you going to be able to stay off the track and stay off of racing?
I don't know. Again, that's the answer. So I'm jumping into a new life in a way. I think I'm, rationally pretty far advanced in terms of, okay, the adrenaline kick that I get today won't be there. But how soon and how much I will miss it, I don't know. Then I think there's always a chance to climb back into something which is, doesn't have to be Formula One, but could be something else, different project or go-karting, whatever, just to have fun. But really, I look at it in terms of finding that challenge elsewhere. And I think it's still important that you do something that scares you. You challenge your limits, both mentally and physically. So, but I can't answer it now. It's nothing, I think it would be weird if I would say that, I take on a different seat tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to this transition time and see how long it takes, and giving space to all these interests that I have and see what comes from it.
Well, Seb, I know the community of supporters that follow you look at you more than just a driver, a great mentor, a great thinker, and somebody who is obsessed with the next best thing. And I can't wait to follow your exploits. I really thank you for your time. This has made my day, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you were to tell me that I was going to be talking with legendary Formula One driver Seb Vettel about parenting and giving space, I would have called you crazy. But talk about somebody who is super real and super authentic. However, I showed my son the video of me and Seb chatting, and my son goes, "Who is that scallywag?" So, Seb, I apologize that my son called you a pirate curse word, but boy, I was really happy to chat with you. The other thing I noticed is I do a lot of weird things with my hands, don't I? But it's the curse of having to present and talk to folks in that virtual space. You got to engage somehow, and apparently it's these guys. All right, we're going to keep going. This playlist gets on to the next song, and it keeps getting better and better. And one of the things that I thought right after talking to Seb was just how much I appreciated his authentic self. So from Seb, let's jump right into more elite thought leaders. And we're going to talk about the traits it takes to be a leadership frontrunner. Please enjoy the next segment of our panelists. Welcome everybody to the Frontrunner Leadership Panel. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most. To get started, let's meet our esteemed panelists and who I'd like to call my esteemed colleagues. Fausta, if you would introduce yourself and your title, please.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. So again, my name is Fausta, and I'm the VP of Studio Experience Culture at Cognizant Softvision.
Welcome, Fausta. Ewan, to you.
Hi, my name's Ewan Davis, and I head up Cognizant Research for the good ship Cognizant.
Thank you, Ewan. Sophia, to you.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. I am Sophia Mendelson. I am Cognizant's Chief Sustainability Officer and Global VP of Environmental Social Governance.
Welcome, everyone. And I'm super excited to be able to talk to you guys today about something I'm very passionate about, and that's leadership. So the setup is we're going to discuss a specific leadership trait. All of us will have one trait, and I'm going to ask 4 specific questions to all of you. After that, we're going to engage in some group conversation and talk about those traits in various ways. To kick us off, we recorded Jessica, and her topic was determination. So we're going to hear a little bit about what it means to be determined and how determination can help us be front runners and establish our leadership traits to share with our junior colleagues and to take into our professional and personal lives. So we're going to hear from Jessica, and then we're going to discuss. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Jessica, and we're here to talk about leadership. What I want you to do today, and for this panel, is suspend disbelief that you're not a university professor. You're here to teach us about leadership a little bit. And we have a specific trait we want to talk to you about, because as we were reading about you and learning about you, and we've seen you grow, we found that determination might just be the perfect leadership trait for you to discuss amongst a panel of experts and leaders in their fields as well. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I want you to kind of teach us, why you think determination is important, and then give us some tips and tricks.
So I can only go from my own experiences, and what I can say is that there are knockbacks along the way. There are obstacles. There are many an obstacle. There can be, whether that be, they come in all different shapes and sizes, these obstacles. And you have to be able to, if you get knocked back, you have to be able to dust yourself down and go again. And to be dedicated, to me, it means that with the rough and the smooth, you stick with it and you make sure that you're trying at 100% your capabilities. And, I really believe that quitting isn't an option if you want to get to the top. You have to, I think, be able to work well with people around you as well, and use strengths of other people's to help you along your way. And nothing comes easy, I really don't think. And being able to be dedicated and hard work pays off. I believe that hard work pays off.
That's really good. I appreciate that. I want to just double click on, when you get knocked back, it takes an incredible amount of energy to stay determined. For new leaders or even seasoned leaders, what's a tip you would give them to maintain that energy in being determined, that singular focus, right? How do you do that? How do you as a person, and how have you learned to bring that energy day in and day out?
Firstly, I think everybody responds differently to knockbacks. And for me, I used to, if I was knocked back, I used to kind of almost feel bad for needing just a little bit of time to recoup myself. And that would send me, give me other issues. So for me, if I've had issues or, obstacles, I've allowed myself the time. I used to, if I was knocked back, I used to kind of almost feel bad for needing just a little bit of time to recoup myself. And that would send me, give me other issues. So for me, if I've had issues or, obstacles, I've allowed myself the time to get over it, if that makes sense. And if you need a day, sometimes I need a day, sometimes I need a couple of hours, sometimes I need an hour. That's okay, because I need time to recover, remember why I do it, and then I dust myself down and then I go again. So it's okay to give yourself some time.
It is okay, right? And I think the weight and the speed of the world in which we all operate, I think that's an important reminder to folks. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because the time for you, even in those setbacks, is important to, again, as you put it, push forward and not quit and dust yourself off. That's fantastic. As we look at examples of determination and we look at that attribute, and we just talked about it a little bit, has anyone specific in your life kind of led the way for you to follow that trait and to embody that trait, or in the opposite, have you been able to inspire others? And I'm sure you have, but do you know anybody that you've inspired to be determined? And how has that determination really helped you along in your career, knowing that you've been a significant inspiration to some, or that you followed the inspiration of others?
I think that for me, I look up to sports people and I look up to athletes. So I see how hard they work, which shows me how hard that I need to work if I want to be the best. So I very much took inspiration from the athletes all around the world, not just motorsport, but every different sport, because they're all take dedication just in slightly different ways. So, and of course, if I can inspire a younger generation in my field or the motorsport world, there are so many more females within the sport now than what there were a few years ago. And if I can break down barriers in my career to enable the younger generation to not have to face those same barriers that I came up against, then the route is almost easier for them, then that's incredible. And that doesn't mean that I'm finished with my career yet.
Thank you for being very clear on the fact that this is not your mic drop moment. You're still trucking along because you're determined to keep going. I love that. So has anybody or have you looked up to anybody that's helped shown that light to you? Has somebody been an inspiration that you wouldn't mind calling out as your inspiration and kind of true north and being determined? Have you had that one person or group of people?
So Sebastian Vettel is obviously 4-time world champion. And he's sadly announced his retirement now, but he's still been on the hunt, and all these drivers are so hungry to do well and dedicated at what they do. And also, like with racing, everybody is so focused and you often work in teams. Like I wouldn't be able to do my job without the mechanics, without the engineers, without all the different areas within motorsport, the tire guys and girls. There are so many different areas of motorsport that perhaps don't get as much coverage as what the drivers get as such. So it's really a team effort.
I love that. So when we look at some of the practical attributes, coming back to determination, I think what I'm hearing you say is, determination is an internal trait, but the success factor is having the right enablers around you. How would you like to sign off on, this university style lecture on the leadership trait determination by Jess?
Anything that's worth having doesn't come easily.
I don't think there's a better way to end the talk as something so passionate and ingrained in you that you have this perfect quib ready to go. And it echoes determination and it echoes everything. Listen, your success, your inspiration to generations to come has been something I've loved to learn about. And I'm so glad we got to talk, Jess. I wish you well, and please keep staying determined for everybody that's your supporting cast and the enablers in your success. I've had a blast talking to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks a lot.
Interesting. I can't think of a better Formula One ambassador than Jessica with her energy, but she brings up some valid points that I want to talk to you about today. It not only in determination of her spirit individually, but the determination to be successful with the right cast of characters around you and the right team around you. I want to go around the room quickly and just discuss that from a leadership perspective. Fausto, I'm going to start with you because in a few moments, we're going to talk about authenticity as one of your key attributes. And we discuss what it means to be enabled by a team. And Jessica just shared that with us. What quibs would you have to add on to that?
Well, for me, really, the team is everything, right? And as she says, I don't have engineers, right, or the kind of engineers that she has. I had others engineers, right, that I work. But for me, understanding the power of the team and inspire them, elevating them, make them shine and understand. I'm going to talk about this authenticity thing that is all being our full selves. So understand what is different for each member of the team, and that they understand that different is actually their superpower, or what they're going to do with that, right? How they're going to how they're going to shine with that. So for me, that's and it's related to determination too, right? But finding that thing and make sure that team is able to work and to succeed with that. It's for me relates to what Jessica was saying.
It's perfect. Your difference is your superpower. It's so good. Ewan, yours we're going to talk about is adaptability. Tell me a little bit about what you were feeling knowing that we're going to be discussing adaptability as a leadership trait and a front runner trait as Jessica was sharing her views on determination.
Sure. Do you know what it got me thinking? It got me thinking about my grandmother, because my grandmother was actually a fortune teller spiritualist, and she was really into star signs. So stick with me for a while and I'll sort of explain why. But she said to me, your star sign, Ewan, is Pisces. And she said, that's a really important star sign. And I said to her, well, why? And she said, well, you swim around a problem in lots of different ways. You have sort of two different views that looks at things, and you try and sort of pick apart a problem and look at it from different perspectives. And although I don't believe in that, I think there's something in the ability to sort of look at things from a different perspective that really matters. So if you need to be adaptable, I think you have to sort of look at, a problem from different perspectives, but also ask people again, and ask, the most senior person in the room to the most inexperienced person in the room. It might be a fresh student, it might be a fresh pair of eyes, but you do need a 360 perspective really on what's actually going on. So that kind of quality, that to be able to sort of look at things in the round, I think is really, really important when you're trying to be adaptable. Because as you know, the best laid plans of mice and men, they can go off the rails. So you have to be able to sort of get the signals early on when things are going a little bit south and course correct. And I think that's a really important behavioral attribute of any leader, is to be able to sort of listen to everyone in the room. As Fausto was saying, it's understanding the different superpowers that you have around the table, and what your superpower is that you can bring. And I think one of my superpowers is the ability to want to get to know, what the youngest person in the room thinks. Because you know what, they're usually right. They have an instinct about something, and that instinct is something that you can tend to forget the more you bury yourself in a project. So that's my take on adaptability and what it means.
And Ewan, it's such a perfect segue to talk about what Jessica harkened back to, which, the drivers get a lot of the spotlight, but there's that entire team that has opinion, that has a voice at the table. And I think you connected that perfectly. Sophia, now yours is vision. And this is another interesting take as we connect the dots across, and no pressure, but Fausta and Ewan gave great responses. So talk to me a little bit about vision and how you are reacting to Jessica's video.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also connect it back to what Fasta and Ewan said. We tend to think about vision on a time scale. What's happening now versus what will happen in the future. Let's turn that and think about it on a quantity of mind scale. If it's just you, it's not a vision, it's a daydream. It's only a vision when you can communicate it and incorporate other people's opinion into it. And Ewan said something that's often used as the definition of intelligence, being able to hold two contradictory thoughts in your mind at the same time. It's a vision when you've incorporated other people and you've pressure tested it against other people who disagree with you.
I love that. That pressure test. Very important. The connections the three of you just made to determination, incredible. I've got t-shirts, bumper stickers. I have everything I need now to sign off and go be a world famous leadership expert, but I still want to talk to you guys a little bit more. And matter of fact, Sophia, we're going to come to you now because one, you did great answering the question. So I think we're going to put you ahead of the class. If we're handing out points, you just got 100 points. Everybody else is at 0. I'm kidding, of course. So Sophia, I want to give you, a 10-minute spotlight now to dive in a little bit more about vision. And we're going to come around and we're going to talk about what you stated in vision and connect them. But the floor is yours. Talk to us a little bit more about vision as that trait and as you see it.
Thank you, Jason. And first, I'll actually talk about our audience. If you are listening to this, if you are part of the ecosystem here with access to this education, to these leaders and these thoughts, and you're paying attention and not multitasking, then you've already shown you have vision. And because you are extending yourself past your day-to-day, past your routine, and you're looking to incorporate other people's opinion, you're looking for other people's leadership to form your own personal vision. Now, when we talk about vision, we have our basic definition, what's happening today versus our ability to see or think about what will happen in the future. That's your base level. Now let's go to the second level. The second level is not what will happen, but what should or could happen. And that will not come to fruition without you. You have a vision maybe of the digital transformation, or if you're me, of sustainability and market solutions to address climate change. If I sit on my tuchus, as my grandmother would say, or my behind, and don't act on that, it's not a vision. It's just an idea, and it will not come to fruition. The vision will remain a continuously fossil and traditional based economy. So not what will happen, but what could happen. And then the third part is your role in the larger ecosystem. Again, the theme we'll keep coming back to here is vision is not about you. It's about understanding your place in something larger. So for example, for me, I'm thinking about my vision in Cognizant's ecosystem. What can I bring to Cognizant's leadership? What can I bring to our clients? How can I take my passion and reshape it into a Cognizant-shaped vision? Or if you're working on a specific solution, you might start with something very, very, very general, and then you want to reshape that vision to the market. Maybe you're working in automotive, maybe you're working on design. It's got to kind of like be sucked in and go from grandiose to specific. So to do that, we have two buckets. We have the personal and we have the intellectual, both equally important, both equally hard, to be totally honest with you. So let's start with the personal. The first is communication, your ability to communicate your vision. And that doesn't mean telling people what you think will happen. That means telling people the outcome you're seeking to achieve. I am seeking to create a more equitable, environmentally reasonable global economy. That is what's going to happen. The vision, my vision for it, is that we at Cognizant, we at Softvision are the people who will make that happen through market-based solutions. I work on communicating that internally and externally every day. If I can't articulate it, if I can't have you buy into it, it doesn't exist. Speaking of, the second is buy-in. No one will buy into your vision if you can't also articulate what it does for them. Visions are scary. Visions are change. And there's a lot of psychological research. We don't like changes, not as animals, not as human beings. So you have to tell people where their role is in their new vision. Where are they going to be useful? Where is their job going to come from? Where is their food going to come from? How's their family going to feel about it? The third is empathy. You can see how we're going in a line here, right? Empathy means understanding that other people might be scared of your vision, not like it, have a different vision that completely contradicts yours. You have to see them on your level. You are a human being with a vision. They are a human being with a vision. You are the same. You are not in competition. And ultimately, your vision will only be successful if you can look at someone who disagrees with you and say, you like me. You like me are trying to do something. You like me are scared. You like me are trying to climb the corporate ladder. And that allows you to be, our fourth personal thing, more resilient. Because visions are long-term. And that means it's a marathon, not a race. And it means you need energy to go the distance. If you spin out, if you pour all your energy into one idea that won't work, you're not going to make the distance. I'm sure Fausta has many examples of start fast, fail fast, recreate without letting it suck your energy out. And then quickly, I'll go to our second bucket of the intellectual. To have and act on a vision, you need to be able to do two things in the intellectual space. The first is separate the signal from the noise. Not everything that happens to you, not everything you read about in the paper will be a sign that your vision is correct or should take you in one specific direction. A competitor, a colleague, a family member, a country might do something. What you need to be able to do is look at that and say, is this relevant to a larger trend that should shape my vision? Is this relevant evidence? Or is this just a random example? Social media, for example, even the news is full of noise, and it can frequently spin us up and take down our resilience. So again, you are looking for the signal through the noise. The second is finding your center in the swirl. You will not be able to change the world. It is not true that one devoted person can change the world. One devoted person can change their community. One devoted person can have a vision that inspires others, and those people collectively change something. To be able to do that, know your place, know your role, be specific with your vision, and let what doesn't work for you or doesn't serve you go. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Jason.
Fantastic. I'm not even going to talk. Ewan, response, reaction?
Well, I mean, that's a tour de force. It's really difficult to sort of give an immediate response. I think it's spot on. And as Sophia was talking, it reminded me of when I went to Atlanta, a great city, which I never really expected to be such a great city. And they have a civil rights museum out there. And outside, there's a beautiful monument with a waterfall on it that has a quote from Margaret Mead. And Margaret Mead, I think, is one of the great civil rights, activists in America. And I pulled it up now. She sort of said this, and it's etched on this monument: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's only the only thing that ever has." And I think that sort of sums up, you have to come together with other people, but recognize you can make big changes if you can find like-minded people who want to make changes as well. And I commend Sophia, because I think the whole focus on ESG, sustainability, I think that's going to be, absolutely critical. And even more so, I feel it in Europe. We have a lot of compliance that's about to hit in a lot of, kind of penalties, which is a little bit depressing. That's what's kind of creating the behaviors. But you can see where this is beginning to move and just how significant our systems and processes and ways of living are going to change. So yeah, I 100% agree with what Sophia was saying, and I thought there's a very interesting kind of way of framing how you need to think about a vision. And I sort of come back to this quote by Margaret Mead by thinking, okay, well, find your allies, find your friends, and think about what you can do when you do come together to try and change something for the better.
Fantastic. Fausta, to you.
again, I take a lot of notes, but I especially, this especially talked to me that I said, know your role, like know your place on this vision and what the change that you're going to make, and this team inspiration that also Ian was talking about, right? He traveled to, I will travel to Philadelphia, right? You would travel to Atlanta, right, Ian? So when I was in Philly and I went to, I know I didn't visit you, Jason, there, but near your house. I went to the Constitution Museum. I don't know if you've ever been there, but that for me was a really revelation moment also for that, for even not being American, right? To see what these founding fathers, right, were doing when they were creating this country and even this word, right? We the people. And they didn't say we the men, we the right. They say we the people. Even those things to think about, they had really this vision, right? And it was really something they were building for the future. They knew their role, right? And they knew their place there, that they were building something bigger. And founding that leadership for me doesn't make sense without a team, right? And always being conscious about that. When you're young on your surgery career, you feel like you're going to be alone doing everything, that you have to have all the qualities and all the traits and all the talents. And it's exhausting. But the more you grow and the more you see that you can do anything alone, right? So for me, that's what especially speaks to me about vision, right? That leadership without that team, without that without that is not going anywhere.
Fantastic. Sophia, thank you very much. ESG being a battleground that we're heavy into, your talk being a front runner in that battleground, true inspiration. Thank you for that. Absolutely loved it. Ewan, we're going to come to you now, and we're going to double click down into a little bit deeper about adaptability. So we've shared a little bit more, but I'd like to hear more about your views on adaptability. Go ahead.
Sure. I run Cognizant Research, and we've just come off a really big research program, and it is all about adaptability. And basically, I can't really give you a guide on how to be adaptable, but what I can say, it's one of those skills and one of those attributes that's becoming more and more important as we move through life. And I think we can all agree our worlds are really speeding up, in fact, accelerating. And the big piece of research I've just finished was with The Economist. So we did a big focus on kind of future ready and how you can actually make your business future ready. And there's, there's collateral on The Economist site under our brand. There's collateral on our site all around what it takes to be a modern enterprise and how you can be kind of fit for purpose. There's a benchmarking tool that, basically tells a client or a reader or a visitor to the site, just how future ready they actually are. We sort of measure, their strategic priorities. We look at their value from technology. We look at ESG. We sort of look at all these things in the round to understand just how fit for purpose organizations are. And what's really interesting is there's so much now thrown at the leadership, the executive class today, so much that I almost feel we're beginning to get muddled on where to focus because everything seems to be a priority. For example, you might have issues around your sustainability reporting. You might have issues around talent capability. You might have issues around, quality of your experiences that you're delivering to customers. And you've just got these, kind of priorities which are sort of coming out of the woodwork everywhere. So I actually feel rather sorry for, today's executive class, because I don't think it was ever that difficult up until now, and it's getting even more difficult. So for me, adaptability is to be able to sort of recognize that change is now a constant. And Sophia mentioned it, no one likes change, but it really is a fact of business life today. It's a fact of my life. I'm sure we're all sort of agree that we have to look at change as being, a necessary factor of how business works today. But what's interesting for me, we used to talk about 3-year plans and 5-year plans. We're now sort of talking about 3-month plans and 6-month plans, and if we're lucky, 12-month plans. So it just shows you how this need to be adaptable is really, really key. So I'll sort of go back to what I was saying. It's having the right team in the room and having those critical friends that can give you advice of what's going on. But also as well, it's to what Fausta was saying, it's sort of looking outside the, your day-to-day and sort of getting inspiration, from wherever you can get it, and sort of take a learning and sort of apply it, look at your own world and sort of see whether you need to think about changing. So I'm afraid I haven't got a kind of a guidebook on adaptability, but I do have a sense that it's becoming ever more critical, and it's incumbent on us as leaders, as executives, as people, as workers, whatever, to really start being open to sort of the sort of changes which are beginning to be felt around us on a day-to-day basis. So I hope that helps, but I'm just thinking about the economist work we've just done and seeing just how difficult it is to navigate this complexity. And looking at the world today from where I sit in Europe, there's an awful lot of uncertainty building around us, and I think it's going to get even more severe. So it's having this sort of resilience. I've got my own, tips and tricks. I do a lot of exercise. I kind of swim a lot to try and sort of clear my head, do a bit of meditation when I can, just to sort of kind of stop all the noises going around. I think you've just got to find your own path through this and try and, make yourself resilient in the best way that you actually can.
I love that you bring up the energy to be resilient, the energy to be adaptability. Jessica talked about that with sometimes just taking a mental health minute for yourself. So Fausta, to you about being an authentic self, given what Ewan was just talking about, what's your reaction?
For me, agility it's really everything, and it fits very well with authenticity. What I'm hearing more and more really is also the combination with ambiguity, right? We are working a lot with these ambiguity elements that we don't know, right? And it's connected with something that Sophia was saying, right? You need to be brave, right? You need to have courage to say what you need to say, to speak up, to confront, right? What the change is not nice, it's not difficult, but it's here. It's going to be faster. It's going to be everywhere. So you can hide and wait until things go back to normal. We tried that with COVID, right? It was going to wait to be 1 week, 1 month, and then it was a full year. Or you just go and deal with it. I'm going to talk a little bit about courage, right? For when I talk about authenticity, that, and I have a post-it here that says, right, courage is fear walking, and for me, really, this agility or ambiguity or adaptability is that you have to go and deal with it and take a stand and have a point of view and say, hey, follow me. We have a vision, we need to move forward, but to really confront it and have the energy to rise again the challenges that you're going to do. And again, going back to the team thing, it's better if you do it together with someone else and not alone, right?
Absolutely. Sophia, what's your reaction? There's clearly a connection. Walk us through it.
Yeah, and the connection is that there's a self-consciousness here, right? That you have a limited amount of energy to be a leader, and that you will be your most effective leader if you channel that energy. So that part of the definition of being a front runner is knowing who to gather around you and what to focus on first. I want to bring it down to something very practical, just to connect it all. I think there's a traditional definition of a leader being the strongest, the fastest, working the hardest, maybe being the most gregarious, the most extroverted. And what you're hearing here is that people who have actually made it, and not just made it successfully financially or career-wise, but made it in the thing they really care about. Like Fausta really cares about her thing, is an expert in it, same with you and same for me. They actually don't try and do it all. They don't try and be the fastest. It's very much a switch from the hare to the tortoise, for those who understand those that reference, and for those who don't, it's easily available. So there's a softness, and I think part of that softness succeeds through planning. So we've talked very high level, very strategically. Everything Fausta and Ewan says to me also says, have a roadmap. Have a roadmap for your vision. Know if you want to go from project developer to design expert to client partner. Know if you want to go from green coding to climate PhD. And maybe really take the time to write that out for yourself.
Very good, very good. Ewan, again, fantastic. I appreciate the vision and the connection to adaptability and what you brought. Now, I realize that the Economist Research Project is queuing up to be released to a wider audience very soon, right? It's in September. Can you drop any dates of when we could start consuming this data? Maybe it's already here, but anything to close with on that data and when we could start to see it?
Sure. It's actually, it's been soft launched, and it was soft launched in August, and it's going hard launch in September the 22nd. And it cost an awful lot of money for my team. And I think I have to say, I think it's a really strong piece of work. And when you're partnering with an organization like The Economist, you generally get a bit of an uplift in, brand and actually reaching different types of audiences that sometimes we struggle to reach. So what I can do is send a link to the landing site. There's the whole sort of Economist Impact landing site, and there's a modern enterprise page, which sort of takes the learnings. And as you go through the Economist Future Ready Business page, you'll see all these drivers to Cognizant. So what we're trying to do, or what we want to do, is position Cognizant as a company and its people as an organization that really understands what it takes to build a modern business in the current era. So, for example, if you are struggling to figure out where to prioritize, if you want to look at your technology, you want to look at your talent strategies, you want to understand whether your ESG is really up to scratch, then The Economist has a benchmark that can help. And because The Economist have built it, it generally holds a lot more trust, which I think is another, to Alistair's point about authenticity, there's a lot more trust in the data set than us. But of course, we've got all the the follow through and all the thinking behind it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But September the 22nd, that's the big date when it will actually go live.
Incredible thought leadership. Now, you also took away a little bit of my job, which is to build really good bridges between one speaker to the next. So Fausta, Ewan teed up trust. We have teed you up perfectly to take us into talking about authenticity now. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's a passion of mine. Talk to us more about it, please.
It's a passion of mine too, right? And for me, it's the best trait of all. No, I'm kidding that I had, but or that I had to speak about, right? And it's really, as we all know, right, it's really about being true to our own personality, to our own values and spirit, regardless of the pressure that we are under, right, to act otherwise. And for me, as I said before, it really starts off with being fully ourselves, right? And here I would like to undermark the fully, right, because we are ourselves, but we sometimes are not brave enough to be fully there, right? And being comfortable, right, with who we are. And this maybe mean that we are not, sometimes we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And because our full ourselves, right, they of course have the strengths and the good things and the talents, but also it is the battle with our own insecurities, our own baggage, right? And it's about being you and making room for others, right, with all those two parts. I remember when I moved to New York. I'm originally from Argentina. I moved to the US 15 years ago. I was pregnant with my first child, and I resigned to my job. I followed my husband to the US, and I was not comfortable being my fully self there. You can mix a little bit of the expatriation to also to learn to thrive in an English speaking environment with the accent. And this is a little bit of what do you do, right? And what it means to be really authentic. And it means really having this courage to not being afraid, to be loud, right? To don't shrink, to be what others, right? I was not a man, I was not American, I was a lot of things, but I was not others, right? So what do I play? And usually we focus a lot in what we are not, what we don't have, right? And we forgot our strengths or what we can, right? What we can bring to the table, and also that you don't need to have everything as Sophia was saying, right? That we can build a team, that we can delegate, right? So the other day I write this phrase that I find, I don't remember where, but it says that my vulnerability doesn't diminish my capacity to work, right, but enhance my capacity to lead. So the more, right, the more vulnerable, the more real I'm there, I feel like also I become a better leader, right? Not the leader that knows all, but that listens, that acts with compassion, that shows empathy. And at the end, of course, really have fun, right? Have fun and dream big. We spend so much time working that if it's not fun and if it not take us to get a better version and dream and really give ourselves the permission to be who we want to be, right? Even if we don't have that plan yet, figure out if we don't have the blueprint yet, but that if we don't dream big, that we put our limits.
Sure.
That's for me part of also that authenticity.
Sure. Fantastic. Even more fodder for my t-shirt business on leadership. Sophia, let's talk about authenticity by way of vision. There seems to be a lot of parallels. Help me connect them.
Well, if your vision is not authentic to what you truly believe, you will run out of energy. You will not achieve it. You will not make it adaptable, to Ewan's point. So if you look at the front runners in front of you, right? If you look at who the audience we can assume want to be as front runners, I think it starts with Fausta. It starts with Fausta's theme of being authentic. And then it goes to Ewan, make sure your authenticity is adaptable, because just because you feel it doesn't mean other people do. Just because you feel it doesn't mean it's right. You got to shed some of the raw emotional core, right? And then you go for it. You go for it with determination and resilience, just like Jessica talked about. And if you can combine Fausta, Ewan, and Jessica, I think you get to an appropriate vision for yourself.
So if we combine all of those, what you're telling me is we might have mastered the art of building a front runner. I heard you say it. I just want to confirm that we did such a phenomenal job of turning this all the way around back to saying, hey, we've just officially defined what a front runner is by talking to some of the most brilliant people that I can call colleagues. Sophia, can you confirm that that's exactly what you meant so I can run with it?
That's exactly what I meant. And it's for you, it's for the listener, it's for the audience. So that you're here next.
I love it. I love it. Fausta, thank you very much. Authenticity, being your authentic self, is something that we have to remind ourselves. We have to remind our teams, and something that I think we do very well when we bring the Cognizant Softvision brand out there to the market. Being our authentic selves is what we are very good at. Folks, this was a fantastic conversation. I hope our audience enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned, I listened, and I feel like I'm a better version of myself for being here. So thank you, Fausta. Thank you, Ewan. Thank you, Sophia. Such a pleasure to have you guys here. Such fantastic thought leadership. For everyone else, we'll see you at the remainder of Programmers Week.